Hey, it's Amanda from the Fundamental Home, and this week I am doing a video for the Virtual Homeschool Co-op, and the topic that we're talking about is my favorite homeschool book ever. And it's kind of timely because, as you can see from my bookshelf behind me, I am clearing out my homeschool books. And I only had a couple of shelves anyway, but I am continually reducing the things that I have, and I'm only keeping my favorites. But they're my actual favorite homeschool book ever. To be honest with you, I don't have it in my collection, and it's one of those things I kind of weigh. Do I want to get it and maybe keep it for my children's children? You know, is it something that I might want to consider doing? I've thought about that because it is a book that I think will last. And when we're talking about my favorite homeschool book ever, I was specifically thinking about my favorite curriculum book, but I also think that I'm going to share with you a couple of my favorite actual literature type books. But when we're talking about my favorite curriculum book, it's really hard to choose. I was trying to think of if I only had the opportunity to have a couple of books, what books would I want to have in my collection for my children, my children's children, so they would be able to learn as much as they can just from one book. Do you know what I mean? Like when I read Little House on the Prairie, Ma Ingalls had just a couple of books that she gave to her children, and they took those to school, and that was all that they had. And I thought, if I could just narrow it down, which ones would I choose? Okay, so the one book that I thought that was very important is in the subject of English or grammar. And I think the book that I would choose out of all of the books, and I don't have it to show you, but I will link it. I will give you an Amazon link in the description box if you want to take a look at it. The book is the 5th grade Rod and Staff Grammar. And I like the 5th grade one because I think it starts simply enough that you could start with any student who can read. I think it starts simply enough, but it goes a long way. You know, I honest to goodness think that if you pulled a high schooler out to homeschool them and they didn't know anything about diagramming sentences, because we didn't learn diagramming sentences in school, so that might be something that you wanted to teach them. I think it's a really good tool to teach language usage. I had somebody ask me this week because of Brianna's high scores in usage what I recommend, and I recommend diagramming sentences. A lot of times people skip it because they don't think it's important. It's kind of not, but it does help, and it really helps increase, in my opinion, those standardized test scores. All of that being said, if you have a high schooler that you've pulled out of public or private school and you're starting to homeschool them and they don't know anything about diagramming, that 5th grade Rod and Staff starts at the very beginning, and I think it goes through it quickly enough that a high schooler can grasp it, and it covers just a lot of information. So if I had to pick one book, it would be the 5th grade Rod and Staff. And the great thing about it is a couple of things. Number one, it's a hardback, and it is made in such a way that it doesn't necessarily require a workbook, so you don't have to buy those reproducibles every year. And it's also really inexpensive. So those are two really important things to me, that I could buy one book and I could use it for all of my children and not have to worry about buying anything else to go with it. And in addition to that, it's inexpensive to begin with. So that's, if I had to pick a favorite curriculum book, that is my absolute favorite curriculum book. But when we're talking about literature books, okay, literature books in terms of things that I want my children to read, because we're not talking about my favorite book of all time, which is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, by the way. We're not talking about that. Okay, we're talking about books that I insist that my children read. I have a handful of literature books that I require all of my children to read. Obviously, if you've watched any of my videos, the Little House on the Prairie series is a requirement in my household for all children. We also do the Little Women series, and that's all of the books. All of them. Little Women, Little Men, Joe's Boys, all of them. I think there's one more. I can't remember the name of it. Those are required, and my boys enjoy all of those books. Even though there are lots of girl stuff in there, there's lots of boy stuff too in both books. In addition to that, we do Little Lord Fauntleroy. Not everyone knows that, but we do Little Lord Fauntleroy. I think that's a really great book. One book that we require in high school that I think is an excellent book is Up From Slavery. I absolutely love that book. That is a cherished book in my collection. Other books that we enjoy, there are a ton of them. I really like, my mind went blank for a minute. I like Henty novels, I like Lamplighter novels. My children really enjoyed the Kataboo Basties when we were studying ancient Egypt. And that's a challenging book, so for younger children it would be a read aloud. Things like that. We have a ton of books that we read, but the main ones that everyone must read in our household is going to be the Little House on the Prairie, Little Women, Fauntleroy, and Up from Slavery. Everyone reads those books in my house. And those are my favorite reading books. But curriculum books, definitely the Rod and Staff book. Do I have a favorite curriculum math book? No. I really try to think of it. In recent years, I really prefer the Bob Jones books. But I don't have a number one favorite. I think math is one of those ones that pretty much anything will work. You know, I'm not super leaning toward one or the other. It's really a preference thing. And for the record, I asked my children if they had a preference. And Ricky and Brianna pretty much laughed at the idea of having a favorite homeschool book. They both said that at the end of the homeschool year, they want to take their workbooks and burn them. That's what they said to me. So they don't. They get filed in Mom's file. And Brian, of course, loves every book. So we had the opposite with Brian, although I know that he collects Saxon. So I think that if you were looking for something in terms of math, and Brian being a math person, if you have a student who's a math person, then that's the recommendation I can give in terms of math. So anyway, those are our favorite curriculum books. Oh, I want to give you one more recommendation while I'm thinking about it. Favorite high school elective book. Brian really liked it also came from Rod and Staff, their accounting. They have an accounting program, and Brian is a business major in college, and he is graduating this year. This summer he's got just a couple more weeks left, yay! But he said that the accounting books that he used for Rod and Staff prepared him for the college level accounting so well that it was almost harder for him to do the high school level Rod and Staff accounting than it was for his first couple of accounting classes. He said it really helped prepare him. He thought they were excellent books. And people are always asking me about high school electives. I think that's a really great one. So there it is, our favorite homeschool books ever. I know it was supposed to be book. I did give you the one. That's my one. If I had one book and everything else was literature, I'd have that one book, and everything else we could deal with on our own. So anyway, I want to tell you while I have you here that I've done a homeschool heavy week this week. I have done an interview with Brianna, an exit interview, and it's a tag. So if you will please check that out, and you might be interested in doing an interview with your homeschooler, and if you do, please leave me a link to that because I would love to check that out. I think it's really valuable for you to interview your homeschooler as they're exiting the year and just get their opinion on the things that you did to help you make the next year even better. Tomorrow, Lord willing, I will be interviewing Ricky, and I'm going to interview him. He graduated this year and he just completed his first semester of college. So I thought I would do an interview and get his perspective as a homeschooler who is how they feel after they've completed their first semester of college, how homeschool prepared them, how it didn't prepare them, just some thoughts on what it is to be a homeschooler and go to college. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. I don't have a link for it yet, but when I do get it, I will also put that up here and in the description box. And one more thing I did this week. Oh, this week I also reviewed Brianna's test scores. We do testing every year, and we did the CAT test this year, and I actually go through all of the tests and I explain all of the different things that we saw when we were testing. And I think that if you are looking at doing some end of year testing, you might be interested in seeing this particular test and how it works, and hear our commentary about how we feel that the test truly reflected or didn't reflect her actual ability, and what our thoughts are for next year. And it's really neat to watch that test video in conjunction with the interview video because it's really neat how you can see things working together. So I'm going to link the test video up here as well. So please check out all those videos. I'm going to be wrapping up, like I said, going through my books. I'm getting rid of all the extras, just keeping the favorites, and trying to get myself focused on summer and possibly even next year. So thank you for watching me here at the Fundamental Home, and I will see you again next week at the Virtual Homeschool Co-op. Bye.